In SketchUp, you're going to be working with geometries, groups, and components, and you're either going to be creating them, modifying them, or selecting them to some extent. And for the most part, it's pretty straightforward, but there are a few really important conventions that I would like to talk about. And once again, I will use the 3D text tool in this demonstration, along with my favorite new demonstration word, Zubzi. This time I will set the font size to be 10 feet, and the extruded size I will do 6 feet. Yours doesn't need to match exactly, but as long as you have a filled and extruded 3D text, you should be able to follow along. I'll place this in the center of my screen, and then I will zoom extents. Using the mouse, I then can scroll back, orbit, and hold down Shift on the keyboard while I am orbiting. I'm going to position my screen about like this. When you first bring in 3D text, it is in a group. If you right-click and select Explode, now the geometries that were inside that group are all selectable. When I talk about geometries, I'm usually referring to either a face, which is a flat coplanar geometry, a surface, which is a collection of faces that has been smoothed. That's easier to see if you turn on hidden geometry. Each of these dashed lines defines a face. Collectively, it is a surface. I will turn off hidden geometry. And then there are edges. Edges, faces, and surfaces. If you double click on any geometry, it will select that geometry as well as the other geometries that define it. In this situation, it's one face and 4 edges. If I double click on an edge, it selects this top face as well as this bottom one because it's shared by that edge. If I triple click, it will select all connected geometries. So for example, I might want to put this Z shape in its own group. Now that collection of geometries is isolated. If I click on the other geometries, they're still selectable. If I click on that group, only that group is selectable. And that is useful for a number of reasons. There's lots of times you will want to isolate geometries. If you ever want to edit those geometries, you can either explode the shape as we did before, or you can double click on that group. As you can see, the rest of the model is grayed out, and now these geometries are selectable. To exit out of this group edit mode, all you need to do is click anywhere in white space outside of that dashed box. So right now I have nothing selected. I'm going to grab the push-pull tool and show you a convention that's shared by most tools. Notice as I hover this tool over the different geometries, sometimes they highlight, sometimes I get that little buster symbol. The reason is I can't push-pull a group. Remember, this Z is now in a group. And I can't push-pull a curved surface, but I can push-pull flat surfaces. That's why those are now highlighted. This is called active select. With most of the tools, you can either active select, meaning you let the tool do the selecting for you, or you can pre-select by selecting in advance the geometries you would like to modify. The mouse can actually be used two ways to implement most of these tools. One way is to click, drag, and release. I'll do that once again on the lower part of this P. Click, drag, and release. Another way is to click and release, move the mouse to the position you would like to affect that geometry, and click again to position. I prefer the latter because it's more flexible when you start introducing either numeric input or if you would like to navigate after or mid operation. Here is an example. If I click on the top face that makes up this P, I can now still orbit, and I can hold down Shift and even reposition this as I let go of those tools, I'm still in this push-pull operation. Maybe I want to set that to the same height. I can easily infer that. Maybe I want it to the same height of this Z. Maybe I want it to half the height of this E. So I will zoom in for more precision, and I can see that I'm snapping to that midpoint. I'll go ahead and click. And you can see by using the click, release, click method, it's a lot more flexible. That would be very difficult to do if I were clicking and dragging. To show an example of pre-selecting, I'll click on this top face of this Z and then grab the scale tool. Notice that I've got my scale handles. I can quickly grab and scale just that top face. If I deselect that, click on the scale tool, now I can see it is active selecting the geometries. For example, it's active selecting that group. If I click, now I can grab the different scale tools. And as always, you can keep an eye in the lower left-hand corner of your screen to see different modifier keys. One that works with the scale tool is holding down the Option key, which will allow you to scale about center. The last thing I'll show is with the Select tool. If you click and drag a window from left to right and release, it's a bounding box, meaning only the entities that are within the bounds of that box are included in the selection. If you drag from left to right, it's a crossing window. Keep an eye on this side of the Z. Notice it's not completely enclosed in this box, but because it crosses it, it is included in the selection. So go ahead and play around with the different ways to select geometries and groups and shapes. Play around with different ways to draw them using both the click, release, click and click, drag, release method. And play around with the active selecting and pre-selecting methods that you can use with modifying these geometries and groups.